The moon hung like a pale lantern in the ink-black sky, casting an eerie glow over the desolate highway. The hum of the engine was my only companion as I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white from the tension. I had never been a fan of driving at night, but circumstances had forced me onto this lonely road. I glanced at the clock on the dashboard. It was past midnight. The road stretched out ahead, disappearing into the darkness like an endless abyss. The trees on either side of the highway seemed to lean in, forming a sinister canopy that blocked out the faint starlight. My headlights struggled to penetrate the heavy gloom, creating swirling shadows that danced at the edge of my vision. I could feel the weight of exhaustion settling in. My eyelids were heavy, and I fought to keep them open, fearing that if I blinked for too long, something might appear in front of me. My mind played tricks, conjuring images of figures darting between the trees, their eyes gleaming with malevolence. I shook my head, trying to clear away the paranoia that was taking hold. The radio crackled to life, and a voice emerged from the static. Local authorities are advising all residents to remain indoors tonight due to reports of a dangerous individual on the loose. This individual is believed to be armed and extremely dangerous. My heart skipped a beat as I listened to the report. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel, and I stole a quick glance in the rearview mirror. The highway behind me was empty, but my imagination ran wild, conjuring images of a lurking figure in the back seat. I forced myself to focus on the road ahead, my breath coming in shallow, anxious gasps. Miles seemed to blur together, the monotony of the road only broken by occasional flickers of my headlights catching on reflective signs. I dared not look at the dark expanse beyond the edges of the highway, afraid of what might be hiding there. A feeling of being watched gnawed at the edges of my consciousness, and I couldn't shake the sensation that something was closing in on me. As the minutes stretched on, my tired mind began to play tricks on me. Shadows elongated and twisted into grotesque shapes, and the distant rustling of leaves sounded like sinister whispers. I blinked hard, trying to shake off the growing sense of dread that clung to me like a second skin. My eyes were heavy, my focus slipping in and out as exhaustion threatened to overcome me. Suddenly, a figure loomed in the middle of the road, illuminated by my headlights. My heart leaped into my throat and I slammed on the brakes. The tires screeched, and the car skidded to a stop just inches from the figure. My breath came in ragged gasps as I stared wide-eyed at the unexpected obstacle. The figure was a woman, dressed in tattered clothes that hung loosely from her skeletal frame. Her hair was matted and wild, and her eyes were empty voids that seemed to pierce through me. A sense of unease settled over me as I realized she was staring directly at me, her gaze unbroken. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the door handle. Something about the woman was deeply unsettling, and every fiber of my being screamed at me to drive away as fast as possible. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn toward her, as if she held some terrible secret that I needed to uncover. "Are you all right?" I called out, my voice quivering with uncertainty. The woman didn't respond, didn't even acknowledge my presence. She continued to stare, her empty eyes boring into me. Goosebumps prickled my skin, and a shiver ran down my spine. Summoning what little courage I had left, I reached for my phone to call for help. As I dialed the emergency number, the woman's lips twisted into a sinister smile. A guttural sound, half laugh and half guttural growl, emanated from her throat. My blood turned to ice and I dropped the phone in horror. Without warning, the woman lunged toward the car, her movements unnaturally swift. I screamed and slammed my foot on the gas pedal, the tires squealing as the car shot forward. The woman's fingers brushed the back of the car, her touch sending a jolt of terror through me. I didn't look back, my eyes fixed on the road ahead as I sped away from the nightmarish encounter. Hours later, I pulled into a brightly lit gas station, my hands still trembling on the steering wheel. I stumbled out of the car and leaned against it, my breath coming in ragged bursts. I had escaped whatever that woman was, but the memory of her empty eyes and twisted smile would haunt me forever. As I stood there, bathed in the harsh fluorescent lights, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had brushed against something otherworldly that night. The road had led me to a darkness I could never have imagined, and I knew that the horrors of that night would stay with me, lurking in the corners of my mind every time I closed my eyes in the darkness. Thank you for joining me. Please subscribe and like the video. This way you help me grow. Take care of you and always beware of shadows lurking in the dark.